This is our first attempt at parent office hours so that we can help ease the transition into camp. We're going to just go around and do some quick introductions. And as we do introductions, we're also just going to talk a little bit about one sort of pre-camp tip that we have ready to go. So let's start. Well, I'm Andy. I'm Andy Schlensky. I'm the owner and director at North Star, but I'm not going to start. I'm going to actually kick it over to Dan, who's going to get us started.
Great. I'm Dan Lichtenstein. I am the director of operations, and I'm actually up at camp right now. And a couple of tips that I have are just some things about kind of packing and buying stuff for camp. As far as like buying stuff, we have the packing list on the Camp in Touch and the preparing for camp sections of our website. And a couple of things that I'll really want to point out. And the first is that in general, don't spend much money on camp stuff. It gets dirty. It gets lost. Your kids will outgrow them by next summer. And so in general, it's not a need to go out and buy the most expensive Patagonia or North Face items. The one thing that we do recommend probably investing some money in if you're buying new is their sleeping bag, because that will last year after year. And so that'd be the one thing that'd be worth going out, talking to somebody about and getting a good sleeping bag, because stored properly, that can last them for years and years beyond their time at camp. In general, on that packing list that we have, we recommend that you stick with it. And mainly that we don't want camp to kind of become this overly materialistic places to kind of who has what items. And that packing list really is a guide to be successful in that area, and to not turning it into about who's got what items and who doesn't have what items. If you have any questions, of course, about packing list items or something that's not on the packing list, you can contact any one of us and we'll help you with that. The kind of last packing suggestion that I have for you is have your kids help you pack. Yes, it is likely easier for you to pack on your own. And then they get there and everything is nice and bundled and perfect. But having the kids help you pack will first off give them a sense of ownership in the idea and process of being at camp. It also will help them better keep track of their gear. We will have kids that, like, we will show them their t-shirt from the Lost and Found, and they will insist it is not theirs. Like, even though their name is written on it, they will insist it's not theirs. And so them helping you pack is going to hopefully prevent that problem, and also write their full name, not just their initials. Sharpies are your friend. Full name on clothing items, because we have like 20 people whose initials are AS. So it might be Andy Schlensky's or it might be somebody else's. So full names.
All right, passing it to you, Glick.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Glickman, or Glick as everyone calls me at camp. This will be my 16th summer at camp, and I'm also one of the assistant directors. I'm going to talk briefly just about some of the initial rules that we could use parent help with making sure that are being followed throughout the summer. The first is cell phones, or I guess any technology really in general that connects to the internet. The internet or any sort of cell service. Please leave those at home. We do not want the kids to have iPhones, iPads, anything with a screen. We would love for them to be out making friends, running around camp, having a good time, and not being stuck looking at a screen. So we do not allow any sort of technology at camp, especially cell phones. Now, cell phones, we always get asked questions like, for travel day, or if my kid is flying to camp, I'd like to be in touch with him for as long as possible. And so what we recommend for cell phones is, if your child is flying to camp, he can bring a cell phone with him. We will collect it once he arrives at Minneapolis Airport, and we'll put it in valuables. So if you need to keep in touch with him while he's at the airport or when he lands in Minneapolis, that's totally fine. We'll collect it and put it in valuables and keep it there until the end of his session. But if the campers are traveling via bus, please leave cell phones at home. We will confiscate the phones if we see them. We do that every year on the bus. And if somehow they get into the cabin and we catch the campers with them, we will take those right away, no questions asked, and put them in valuables as well. There's really no need for them to have phones at camp. We'd love for them to be, again, out and running around and making friends away from their screens for the summer. The next rule that's super important is just not having food, not sending too much food up to camp. So if they're traveling by the bus or the airport and they want to have snacks on their way to camp, that's totally fine. Just don't give them so much food that they're not going to eat it, or that they're going to eat too much and they're going to get sick when they get to camp. But we will also confiscate food at camp. And the reason why we don't want it in the cabins is obviously we're surrounded by nature, and there are lots of animals nearby that have a sweet tooth and would love some candy or some soda or things like that if they could smell it in the cabin. And so we obviously don't want those creatures come into the cabin or into camp. And so we'd love for that candy to stay out of camp. The kids will have candy usually twice a week. We have what's called Wanigan, where the kids can, after dinner 2 nights a week, can get a candy bar from our Wanigan. And also our kitchen staff is really awesome. The kids will be well fed. And so they really don't need kind of snacks throughout the day. We also will have some fruit in the mid-afternoon for the kids to get if they are hungry during the day. And the other reason why we don't want food in the cabins is that some kids have allergies, severe allergies sometimes, to certain foods or nuts or things like that. And if someone brings something into the cabin and we're not able to control that environment, it can really kind of lead to some dangerous situations at camp. Last main thing that I will mention is just packages. We also have a no package policy. If there's newspapers or magazines or things or comic books that the kids like, that's certainly allowed. Maybe give the office a heads up that you're mailing that stuff, but try and send all the games or anything like that ahead of time with your camper to camp. And definitely again, no food coming in the packages. Our office staff will open all packages, and if we see some sticks of gum or a bag of gummy bears are out there, our office staff will now have some snacks in the office, but the kids won't receive that candy. And the reason why we have these rules is we want our counselors to be on the same team as our campers, and it kind of starts them off on the wrong foot if the counselors are immediately having to be the bad guys and take away cell phones or take away food in the cabin. And then it just creates sticky situations if we're a couple of days into camp and we discover a kid has a trunk full of candy that now the counselors have to confiscate. Just creates kind of a not the most ideal dynamic between our campers and our counselors. So keeping cell phones and food and the packages to a minimum is super helpful for everyone here at North Star.
Great. And just want to add one thing is that if it's a non-flyer, we actually ship the cell phones home at the family's expense. So please do not send them. It gets us off to a bad start. All right, I'm going to kick things over to Kacy.
Hi, my name is Kacy. I am also an assistant director, and I wear many hats, but 2 of the main hats I wear are overseeing our overnight tripping program with our wilderness trips, and then also supporting our campers and counselors with youth development and social emotional learning at camp. So I want to talk a little bit about ways that you can pass on important information to us. You know your camper better than anyone else, so it's really important if you could take a moment while you're filling out your camper profile and under CampMinder to pass on just helpful tips that are easy points of connection for your camper, any goals that you have for your camper, and any problem solving tips that would help us. We read every single one and we pass that information to your camper's counselor, and we refer to it throughout the summer. So it's super helpful for us to have as much detail and as much information as possible. And that info goes a long way with us. So we appreciate that.
Awesome. Thanks, Kacy. Beth, you're up.
Hi, I'm Beth. I am the office manager up at camp and also a longtime parent of twin boys who were North Star campers and counselors. And I'm here to talk about forms. Turn in your forms, please. Hopefully everybody received an email today with the status of each form. And if they're all in, thank you so much. If they are not yet in, my tips are, I remember being overwhelmed by filling out the forms, especially for 2 kids at once. So in some years, I did a form a day rather than trying to sit down and do them all at once. So if that's helpful, please do that. My pro tip is our system, when you upload a document, for example, the immunization form, if you try to upload 2 pages in 2 separate documents, the system will just override page 1 with page 2, and all we'll get is page 2. So if you're uploading to a single form, like immunizations, do it in 1 document, please. And that way we will get both of the pages and we won't have to reach out to you to ask you to send it again. Any questions, big or small, just email office@northstarcamp.com, and we're happy to help.
Great. Thank you, Beth. Robyn?
Hi, everyone. I'm Robyn Boehm. I'm an assistant director at North Star, and similar to everyone on this team, we all wear multiple hats in different departments and with different just areas of focus. And so mine are, I help work with the office team and office staff. So we're really, Beth can answer a lot of those questions, but me as well, as far as when it comes to just forms, billing, those sorts of things in the office. And then I also help work very directly and help oversee our health center and our full medical team over the summer. And so from the lens and kind of our tips coming from the health center, right now, it's really time to start thinking about just those health forms, turning them in, and then also medications. We work with a pharmacy that's called Camp Meds that helps package the medications in a really safe and really easy way for us to distribute those daily medications. So Camp Meds, though, is only for daily pill medication. If your child is going to take any daily pill medication, it needs to go through Camp Meds. That is for over-the-counter medications like a daily allergy pill, also for prescriptions. Daily pill has to go through Camp Meds. Anything else like inhalers, as needed medication can be sent separately. And so for those separate medications, if you have questions, to reach out to me, either we can have a conversation or I'll put you in contact with our health center staff as they also join our team and get started for the summer. But just a note, the daily pill medication is really important for us. There is a deadline. They ask that 6 weeks before your session is starting is when the order through Camp Meds be submitted. So now is the time to be planning and putting in that as well. So if there's any questions regarding any medications or things regarding the health center as we go into the summer, I'm happy to have conversations with anyone, and then go and we'll continue it from there.
Great. And then my quick tip, as we turn the calendar to May, is that every kid is going to have nerves creep up on them, whether it's their first time or they're a returner. There are things that you get nervous about before any adventure, right? And this is a big adventure for them, and so we expect it. Our recommendation is really to keep that talk positive at camp. And so positive isn't dismissive, it's just positive, right? There are struggles that they're going to have at camp, but there's nothing at camp that they can't handle. And that's part of the reason you've made this decision, that there are staff there to help with everything, right? And just remind them to keep talking to their counselors. They're going to have 3 or 4 counselors for that reason. They're going to have all of us at camp. We have a staff of, again, about 115 to 120 people, and for about 220 kids. There are a lot of staff there for every kid to talk to for that very reason. And so when they're nervous, if you don't know the answer, you can come to us to get specific answers to specific nerves. But for the generalized anxieties, stay really positive, and remind them about the resources that they have while they're doing it. A couple of quick don'ts, okay? The first don't say how much you're going to miss them over and over and over again, okay? We often hear from parents, we often hear from kids that they're worried about if their parents are okay without them. And that strictly comes from, a few too many of those extra long hugs and kisses and tears and what am I going to do without you? If you don't say it, I guarantee you, your son on his own is not going to wonder if you're going to be okay without him unless he hears that from you. So make sure not to burden him with your own nerves or anxieties. Share that outward with somebody else, a friend or a relative that's not your son. And then the real big no-no that I just, please, no matter how nervous they are, do not ever say the words, if it's hard, if something goes wrong, if you don't like it, I will come pick you up. Because that is a recipe for disaster every time. It undermines their whole mentality of that they can handle this, because then they go, oh, I don't need to handle it. I'll just call home at first sign of trouble. So please, 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 please don't ever say those words. That is the cardinal sin of pre-camp parenting. So those are our tips that we have. And we're really here to answer questions. So, there aren't many of you, so you're all required to ask like at least 3 questions. So
perfect. I only have one, actually.
All right, start us off.
Yeah. So when I booked the travel there for the unaccompanied minor, there was like a code that we created like on one side, and then I have to tell someone else the code on the other side. So if someone is there like a representative for the camp at the Minneapolis airport that is going to like round up the midgets?
I will talk about the airline stuff, and
okay.
Like, it's really reassuring when you call Delta, but it's almost a little like excessive. Like, they put like QR codes on your kids. It's nuts.
Yeah.
It's so that was it like a 4-digit pin or something? Okay. Yeah. So that 4-digit pin, and I am one of the people that will be in Minneapolis helping to corral the kids and to oversee that. We will likely have at least a dozen or more staff there to oversee that. And so when you make that reservation with Delta, they'll give you that 4-digit PIN. And I believe all that is needed for is if you need to call up and make a change to their unaccompanied minor reservation. That's what that 4-digit PIN is. You can email that to me, and I'll give my email address in a minute. And any travel stuff, you can always email me. And so what will happen is if you haven't yet called up Delta, they will likely ask for
yeah, I booked it, but maybe for other people that haven't.
Yeah, so they will ask for like information as far as who is picking up the child or who is escorting them. And you can temporarily give them my name, which is Dan, last name is Lichtenstein, and use the camp address and phone number, but that's just going to be a placeholder. A few days before we pick up the kids at the airport, we are going to email all of our families that are flying through Minneapolis. We will tell you who is picking up your son and what their address information is, because it will need to match their photo ID. And so you'll need to call up Delta. That's probably when you will need that PIN and say it's actually Robyn Boehm that's picking up my son, and here is her address and phone number. And so they will need that. Just the other kind of quick 101 level stuff with how kind of camper travel works. When you get to the airport to take your son, you will go to check in. You'll tell them you're taking an unaccompanied minor. They will give you at least one gate pass. They may give you multiple gate passes for multiple parents, or they may just say, nope, one gate pass per passenger. It just depends on who you're dealing with. You will take them to their flight. I recommend getting there before the flight starts to board, telling somebody at the gate, hey, I'm putting my son on, he's on a unaccompanied minor. And if you're there at the start, they will take them first and seat them and get them comfortable. We will have staff at the Minneapolis airport waiting at the gate. And then they will let the people know at the gate on the Minneapolis end who they're picking up, and then they will check that staff member's ID to make sure that it matches what they have on board. Then but we are there. We're watching them the whole time. We will have lunch for them at the Minneapolis airport also.
Okay, I booked, actually, Andy and I talked about this before, but Gus, and I'm actually flying Alexander to Boise because he's going to get on a plane with Gus to go to Minneapolis. Okay. And they're getting there at like 9:45 or something in the morning. But I wasn't sure, if I didn't see it in any of the, you guys will be there all day. And then when do you actually leave Minneapolis?
So what I'll also say is, so you're meeting another family in Idaho and
yeah, we're sending them from Idaho to Minneapolis.
So what you should be able to do, by the way, is you should be able to bundle both families on a single unaccompanied minor reservation.
Yeah, it didn't work.
Okay, it might be because you've got. It might be because it's two flights. Bottom line is we'll be there until we need to be there in case there are delays and such. Almost every flight usually has landed by 1 o'clock. So we're usually boarding the buses right around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We're considering some other options to get the kids away from the airport. One of those options might be actually taking the kids once they arrive and having them at like an outdoor park supervised. We're considering some different options. But usually we are on the buses and out of the Minneapolis area between 12:30 and 1 p.m.
No, that's great because I looked at a flight from LA direct and it didn't get into like 6 p.m. and I was like, oh no, like what if you guys are just waiting on one kid, Anyway.
And in addition to Dan, Dan oversees our airport detail, but he'll have a bunch of staff with him who will be there introducing campers to one another, making sure they're fed, making sure all their needs are met. And I'll also say last year I became a first-time camp parent myself, and Lainey has requested after flying unaccompanied minor that she never fly with me again because I think the flight attendants just spoil them, the whole way on the flight as their strategy. So hopefully it'll be as good for everybody else.
Yeah, I'll add two quick travel things. The first is, especially for and we're recording this for other families to watch, for families that maybe are recently enrolled and haven't seen, on the Preparing for Camp page of our website, as well as Camp in Touch, there is a document that goes over air travel, and that does have kind of the flight parameters and our flights from most cities, not necessarily every city. And so if you have any questions about that, that's great. The other thing is there are probably some people that are kind of nervous about putting their kids on an airplane as an unaccompanied minor. While we do have some people that will fly in with their sons, we think that there's some value to them flying in by themselves. The unaccompanied minor programs, while they're a little pricey, they're great. I have never had it, and I've been doing air travel for a long time. I'm probably jinxing myself to something happening wrong this year, but it's been really great. The airline staff are really attentive to the kids, and so as part of I assume part of everyone's goal to send their kids to camp is to kind of foster that independence and self-sufficiency, letting them have that adventure of flying on the airplane under the watchful eye of airline staff, with which the kids may not realize are watching over them. There's actually some real value to that.
Yeah, I agree. That's cool. Oh, and then before I forget, when I created the name of the person, it's first name North, last name Star with the camp address. So a business card should work for you guys.
Well, yeah, like I said, we will send that information a few days beforehand for you to call back Delta and update
Give them the actual name. Yep.
Okay. Perfect.
Cool. All right. That's it for me. Sorry. I took the floor for too long.
No, it's great. We got a question in the chat about additional things that might be fun for the kids to have. And I think this one is sort of a fine line between fun to have and total junk, right? And one of our missions that we try and really teach at camp is really about environmentalism, and so some of the stuff that's just guaranteed to end up in the garbage, we don't want that all piling up. So there's lots of little toys that seem tempting when you're prepping them for camp, that are just going to pretty much go straight in the trash. You've got to understand that the boys in the cabin are so happy with a tennis ball to play rafter ball or other games in the cabin, where we do generally allow, playing ball in the house in some capacity, right? And a deck of cards, right? Like that gets them most of the way through. There are some like little card games that the kids do find fun. So if your son has like a Monopoly Deal or what's Exploding Kittens or some of these other like more custom card games that the kids like to play, Bang. I'm just trying to think of some of those are fine to send, but you want them to be, anything you're going to send, you want to be inclusive of others, not something that your child is really going to isolate themselves playing, right? Not anything that's one player, and something that's not going to break or end up in the trash after a single use. So really, they need very little, right? If everybody doesn't need to bring like the Nerf basketball hoop for their bed, right? That they're going to be fine without it. Some of those things can be fun, but I wouldn't spend time, energy, or money, on finding stuff for that. So that was one question we got in the chat. All right, what other questions do you guys have? Allie, go for it.
I have so many.
Great.
Okay. Okay, piggybacking on the travel thing. So my son has a little anxiety about taking the bus. I know it's encouraged. Would you say it is greatly encouraged as opposed to me driving him up?
Yes, and here's why. The main reason is that separation is so much easier for him and for you not at camp. There is something about having to give that final hug and watch you walk down Camp Road to get back to your car that just doesn't set up well for success. What is allowed in the leaving from Minneapolis or leaving from Chicago or Milwaukee bus is a buffer whereby when that bus pulls out, there's a mixture of sad and excited and nervous and all these things together, but we're there to support them in that moment, right? So Dan is in Minneapolis. Dan oversees Minneapolis. I oversee Chicago. We're on those buses. We've got staff on those buses ready to support them through that. And then when they get to camp starts with a big bang. The kids, I don't know if you've seen it in the video, if you haven't watched the video recently, but the kids get off the bus to like jumping and yelling and screaming counselors. And it's this high energy. And then we gather around the flagpole and these happy greetings. And it's a much better emotional transition. So, even if it's that they get car sick or they don't like long bus rides or whatever it is, it will make life better in the long run to get them on that bus. Also, as I think you guys were emailed about, we're going to do a new camper Zoom in late May, so that they'll get to see some familiar faces before they get on the bus, including staff, and so the counselors, like literally your job as a parent is just to get them on that bus. Once they're on that bus, we've got everything totally under control. We've had kids who are throwing epic tantrums in the parking lot. And like before we're out of the parking lot, they're smiling, they've made a new friend, they've got a counselor that they can count on. This is what we do. So I know that there's so much anxiety that goes into those moments of actually taking those steps onto the bus, but all you need to do is get them on the bus and we've got the rest of them under control.
And are the kids assigned to certain buses? Is it pre-planned or no?
We've been assigning because of COVID protocols the last couple of years. In the past, we had not, but it's really sort of historically we put the new young kids on the first bus, and that's the bus that I ride, and we make sure that that we're going to get them all the attention. I'm guessing we'll do buses by grade this year. If I had to guess, we're still have, you know, some of those protocols are still to be determined for how it's going to work with COVID stuff. But I would guess that we'll still group seating by grade, so that you know, so that Dylan will be with all of the other kids who also you know, also just finished 5th grade. So
Okay.
have it the same way.
And lunch, it's a stupid question, but just with his allergies and just all that stuff. He's asking me all these questions too, so.
Oh, it's great. That's great. So pack a lunch. The kids, we stop, the Chicago bus stops for lunch. We stop at a park so that they can get off, stretch their legs. There's a bathroom there. And so there's sort of 2 categories that if you don't separate for them, right, there's the lunch, and then there's all of the snacks and candy stuff that they also, of course, want. Make sure to separate the lunch so that they have that when they get there. I mean, you know, most people just bring a sandwich and chips, and it's easy. Don't overthink it. It doesn't need to be much. And the kids are you know, there's a lot of candy being passed then between each other.
Quick question on the back of that. Are there restrooms on the bus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're the charter buses with bathroom and movies, and so you know, even if there's a dull moment, they just tune into the movies, and they're happy.
All right, cool.
But just with the allergy thing, is it just free reign, or like, can people bring peanut butter, or?
So people can bring, we ask families to be mindful on the bus, but it's, you know, we don't have restrictions on that, because people are packing their own. So yeah, honestly, I think most families like, you know, just like grab something from the favorite sub shop on the way there the night before. That's seems to be, there's a Potbelly's right across the street from where we do the Chicago bus, and I think a lot of families end up just grabbing that when they realize that in the morning. So
okay,
yeah.
Let's see.
What else?
Who is the best person? I would just assume you, but maybe I'm wrong. Just to like talk to pre-camp a little bit, just to kind of like give you some more. I know I'm going to fill out in the forms, but just to talk to you about my kid just a little bit before.
So truly the best place is the forms. And the reason is,
okay,
you know, if you talk to anybody, you're going to get one of us. The form goes in front of all of us, right? So you could talk to, you know, to any of the 6 of us ahead of time, and we'd all do great with that information. But the form is going to not only go, you know, the camper profile and the camper questionnaire. Not only do we all read them, but their counselors are going to read it. Their village director is going to read it. The health center sees those things. So that is truly the best way to get that information in front of all of the right people. You know, any of us are happy to talk through any issues that you have questions about. But if it's information that you want all of those other people to have, the forms, that's why the forms are so valuable, is because that is your way to talk to all of the people who are going to be overseeing your son's care, right? Okay. And just so you know how it works on our end, we get to know our counselors throughout training, and then assign the counseling teams just a couple of days before the kids come. So you know, it's not like I'm going to be able to have an individual conversation with every counselor in the weeks before, because we had that. So that's why the forms are so specifically valuable. But very good question. But for questions, right, if there are things you're wondering about, not things that you want to tell us, but things that you want to know, any of us, you know, particularly Robyn, Kacy, and myself are overseeing camper care. So any of the 3 of us are all there. Beth is handling a lot of that as our admissions, you know, overseeing admissions, and so we'll get that information to whomever is needed as well. So all of us are options, really. But if it's something you want everybody to know about your kid, write it in that camper profile. That is no question the best spot.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right. What other questions? What other questions do people have?
When are you guys gonna do an adult camp?
Family camp starts Wednesday, August 17th. You're more than welcome to join for that.
Yes.
There are some like adult camps out there, but we've not gone into that business. No, it is fun. It is fun for adults too. It really is. But we don't move at the same pace as the kids do. So everything's got to be relaxed then.
It'll be an older version for us old guys. So. All right.
Great. All right. Any other questions for now?
Good.
I don't think so.
All
I'm
right,
sure
well,
there'll be more, but not now.
and call, right? That's what we're here for. You can call, you can email. We want to be able to be a resource for all these questions as we lead up to camp. So.
We don't find out like their cabin mates ahead of time. No, I didn't think so.
Nope, not until they get to camp. And we literally, we do our best to figure that out ahead of time based on all the information that comes in on the forums and obviously the returning campers that we know and what we know about the kids. But honestly, I make changes sometimes on the bus when I see how kids are getting along. So there's no advance notice. When the boys, about an hour after the boys get to camp, I'll send out an email that says they made it. Here's what's going on. Here's the cabins. So get that from us then. Yeah. Great. Well, thanks for joining. Let us know what other questions you guys have. Reach out to any of us. All of our emails are our first name at northstarcamp.com, with the exception of Glick, who is Glick, Glick at northstarcamp.com. Yeah, so that's how you can get us directly, and then by phone, you can call and get through to any of us through the automated system too. So. Thanks for joining. We'll see you guys again on when we do the new camper Zoom in a couple of weeks, but call if you need anything until then.
What's the date of that new camper Zoom?
We not yet scheduled, but last week of May. That last week of May at some point. So we'll do it that weekend. We'll do it during the weekend then.
Cool.
So, perfect.
All right.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for coming with questions. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.